So here's my assessment of Runestone Academy. This past summer was my first semester teaching Introduction to Programming, and it was also my first time using Runestone. So I had evaluated both Runestone and Replit, and I went with Runestone because I really liked the interactive textbook. I liked the way it was laid out, and I liked that it was a low stakes sort of thing for the students. And also a big reason was that I wanted to use the Python for Everyone PDF book and the videos, and Runestone had that option. There was a little bit of a learning curve with using Runestone, but I feel that overall it was really simple to get going, and I would say that right out of the box it was easy to use. Of course, over time, I've learned a lot more about Runestone, and that makes it easier for me and for the students. In fact, just kind of reviewing what I wanted to tell you in this video, I learned something. It's my second semester now using Runestone, and the way I have it set up is I have reading assignments and problem exercises for each chapter. So this is what the student sees. This is what I have set up for. So reading assignment and exercises for each chapter. And this is pretty easy to accomplish just under the instructor page. I can go to my assignments tab, and you can see here everything that I've already created. So the reading assignments are by design. They're just low stake activities. They're based on the points are based on students' interaction with the textbook. So it doesn't matter if they get the problems correct or not. Now, the problem exercises are graded for correctness, and these can be programming problems, fill in the blank questions, multiple choice, or any other gradable type of activity. There's a nice pool of already created exercises. And so far, I've chosen from these. I have yet to really figure out how to create my own. That's a little bit of a learning curve that I haven't decided to undertake yet. But I can see once I give it a name, and then I come down here, if it's a reading assignment, I am simply choosing the chapter that I want them to cover. Or if it's let me choose a different, let's go to Chapter 4 exercises. And so then I can come down here to problems, and now scroll on down. These are ones I've already chosen. I can open up Chapter 4, and then I have all of these different types of problems that I can choose from. If I want coding questions, then I can expand this, and I can pick from any of these coding questions. Anything that has a check mark next to it means it's going to be auto-graded. If it does not have a check mark next to it, then I'm going to have to manually grade that. But most of the multiple choice questions, you can see, are all auto-graded. It's really the coding questions that you're not going to find are auto-graded. So that does leave me with some manual grading that I have to do. There's some other things that you can set into this, but I'm not giving a tutorial on how Runestone works. And that kind of leads me to the instructor manual or the instructor guide, which I think is pretty good to answer most of my questions. I'll have to be honest though, it took me a while to figure out that the instructor guide was actually a course I had to enroll in. So when I go to change course, I actually had to enroll in the instructor guide course so I could see it. So when I view the book, and they've actually just upgraded this, so it's a nice new interactive layout. But it's pretty thorough, answers a lot of my questions that I've had. So from the main page, once I have the assignments laid out for the student, this is what the student is going to see, and they would click on assignments here. Now, one of the things that I find a little, maybe I just haven't figured it out about Runestone yet, but I find this just a little, poses a problem for me and the students. So what I want the students to work on are the assignments that I have. But we have the table of contents here. So if I say, oh, we're working on chapter 1, it looks like they can go into chapter 1 and do this. What I have found, though, is if the student does this work down here, it is not counted when I go and grade. So what the student has to do is go into, click on assignments here. So once we go into assignments, we saw this page already, but this is all the assignments that are ready for the student to work on, whether it's the reading assignment or the exercises. And it also gives them a status. When's the due date? What is the percentage of where they're at within that particular assignment? Another peculiar thing that I have found about this is it's not an accurate status until I go in and actually grade the assignment. I have to push through the grading, and then they get an accurate status. So again, this could be something that I'm just not figuring out. But these are some of the problems, not really a problem, but just some of the quirkiness that I'm encountering at this point. So what I do is I pre-register the students in the Runestone class. I add all the students using their school email, and I just do that from a CSV file. But basically what I do is I copy and paste from the enrollment list from eWolf, and then I paste it into an Excel spreadsheet. I put it in the format that Runestone needs it, and then I save it as a CSV file, and then back in Runestone I can upload that. So I go into my instructor page, and from manage students, then I would browse for that CSV file and upload it. But one thing I did learn by trial and error was you cannot use the same username format for different classes. So for example, this past summer I used CSC last name. When I tried that again for my fall class, I got an error on some of the names. Now I have to do something like this, CSC 1019 FA22, then last name. So that was a little trial and error. I didn't really read that in the instructor manual. Maybe I didn't know what I was looking for. Also, you can delete students from the course. You can remove them from your course, but the account is not deleted. So their account still remains. Their work is moved to the main course, which means the student still has access to their work and they could continue working independently. They're just not in your course. So again, I mentioned the instructor manual. I do think that's a good resource. It's helpful. I also like using the Runestone on Slack. I have found that to be pretty helpful too in getting some questions answered. So when it comes to grading assignments, I go to the grading tab. I choose the assignment that I want to grade. Let's say I want to grade Chapter 2 exercises. I choose that one. And if I want to auto-grade, then auto-grade does not support multiple selections yet. So I basically just leave this blank, and then I run auto-grade, and it'll automatically grade everything that is set to auto-grade. However, there are some, let's look at the questions. If there is not a check mark next to that question, that means I have to manually grade it. That hasn't been too much of an issue. I do get a better idea of how the student is doing, and I can give feedback on the problem. I mean, I could do that for auto-graded questions too, but I don't tend to look at those as closely. I have to say the biggest issue in Runestone that I have anyway is that it doesn't integrate with D2L, or not a way that I can figure out anyway. But really, after I run the grading in Runestone, then I go and I download the gradebook. And I don't necessarily have to pick the chapter that I want to download. I just click on Gradebook, download Gradebook. That opens up as a CSV file. And then I can see the score for each of the students and I can plug that in. It's actually a fairly simple process. It's just tedious. So just one last thing to kind of mention is keeping tabs on students' progress, and as the class as a whole is also pretty straightforward. So just about every action a student takes is logged. So this is like loading a book page or answering a multiple choice question or a mixed up code question, a Parsons problem, running code in the active window or editing code. I can actually see if a student took 20 tries to get a coding problem, I can see all 20 tries, and I can actually download every single action a student takes too. So I can really analyze it. I really like that part about Runestone. So if a student has a question and they can't really voice to me what they've done so far, I can always go back and I can look at that history and see what they've done. So I don't have a lot of experience with using different programs for teaching programming. I've looked at Replit, I've looked at Cengage, and now Runestone. And I have to say, out of those three that I have the experience with, I really like Runestone. I see the possibilities with it. If it would just integrate into D2L, so I could have all the links in D2L, the student can just click on a link to get to the assignment. And of course, also, if once I grade, those grades would just automatically go into the grade book in D2L. That would be a little bit time saving. Hopefully this is something that will happen within Runestone, because I know now it does integrate with Canvas and Moodle, I believe. So why can't it link with D2L? These are things I don't know, and maybe if I could collaborate with some other people who used or are using Runestone, maybe these are issues I can figure out. Okay, I hope this was helpful and this is what you wanted.